Hey guys, well it's December 21st and it's super nice outside. It's gonna be almost 60 degrees here in Denver today. So Derek and I are packing up the VW and we are going to head out to the farm and see if we can do a little work on removing the mastic of the little house floor. Hopefully it'll be warm enough tomorrow that we can do that. And I feel like it's better to do it now when it's cooler than doing it when it's 100 degrees outside and using that heat gun that's 600 degrees. So we'll see how it goes. We are pretty much packed up and we've got everything we need right here. Right, girl? She's all ready. The sun was setting as we arrived at the farm. The farm is about 4 hours from our house in Denver, but we managed to make the drive usually about 6 to 8 hours. We always find stops that we need to make along the way, and this trip was no exception. We stopped off in Brush, Colorado, and also Sterling to check out a couple coffee shops and just to see if there were any shops there where we could get some last-minute Christmas shopping done. I'll include that information in another video. As we pulled into the farm, we were anxious to see if anything was going on since we hadn't been out in a few weeks. And Derek was looking forward to seeing the cattle that our neighbor is grazing behind our property. They graze about 300 cattle on the land where the corn has been harvested, and then the cattle eat up the stubble. And as we pulled in, there was one cow there. There was about 300 other ones that I'll show a little later in the video. I mentioned the purpose for coming out this time was to try to get the mastic off the floor in the little house. But just to give you an understanding of what's going on out here, we have two houses. We have the little house and the big house. The little house is on my right that I showed at the beginning here of this clip. And then on the left is the larger big house. The big house is a project for later down the road. We are trying now just to get the little house livable so that we have a place to stay that is a little bit more conditioned than the trailer as far as hot and cold. This is the little house. From what we understand, it was the house that the farmhand lived in, and prior to us buying the house, no one has lived here in over 50 years. This was the condition of the house when we purchased it. In fact, the realtor did not want us to go in when we looked at the property. Raccoons had really taken over. As you can see, they were using the sink as their what's called a latrine. We learned that term as a new term for us. They were also using drawers and everything else to poop in. It was a disaster. I didn't know if we could ever get it cleaned. I spent hours and hours picking up poop and sweeping all the waste into all these plastic bags you see here. But we finally got the floor kind of cleared out so we could at least evaluate what was going on in there. This is how it looked after I had cleaned up everything off of the floor. And then I started to take my attention towards the cabinets. The cabinets were covered on the outside and inside with raccoon feces. I didn't know if I could get them clean, but I really wanted to try and save them because they are original to the house, or at least somewhat original. After I got the countertop off, I realized they may be the second iteration of cabinets, but they're still probably from the 50s. So I got to work scrubbing with a bleach solution, and it actually worked really well on the raccoon feces. And thankfully these cabinets were painted in kind of a glossy paint, so the feces pretty much wiped right off. So I spent probably 3 to 4 days doing this, and the result was they came out really nice. We're so happy that we tried to save them. I will be repainting them later down the road, but for now, they are very clean and we would have no problem storing things in these cabinets. Next, I got started trying to clean the floors up. There's 50 years or more of raccoon feces and dirt and who knows what accumulated on this floor. And I was just trying my best to at least clean up some of it. There's no running water in the house, so we have to run or walk over to the well pump every time that I want to get fresh water. And Derek was helping me by getting a clean bucket. But it was just a mess, and there was so much dirt and filth, it really wasn't cleaning up. Ultimately, we decided that we would try and remove the floor. This is because when I was cleaning the cabinets, I found, and you can see in this video, kind of that the floors are open to the floor. There's hardwood under there. So this red and white checker tile is not original. Once I saw the hardwood, I knew that we needed to remove the tile. We were going to probably remove it anyway because our asbestos testing came back and it is 5% asbestos. But we could have gone over the top of it. I didn't really like that idea, and neither did Derek, because you would have a lip between the main floor hardwood and this tile with another layer on top of it. So we did our research and took all the precautions, even though this has a minimal amount of asbestos in it, and started at trying to remove the tile. This job was probably the worst job in the history of mankind. This day when I'm working trying to chisel off the tile, it was about 100 degrees outside, and it was about 200 degrees in my Tyvek suit. As you can see, it was so hot, Nadia had to try and dig herself a cool mud bath in the dirt outside of the house, while I was inside hammering away at the tile. Derek and I spent about, 3 hours and got this far that day. It was just back-breaking work, and it was so hot that we decided to call it a day and come back on our next trip. We weren't even sure if we could get it all up. It was coming up in just little bitty pieces. A couple weeks later, after we had recovered from the first go-round, we decided to get at it again.
Hi. How's it going?
Derek shot this video I had gotten started before he got suited up.
I was getting ready to suit up. I'll go grab a hammer and suit up.
Yeah, I have everything out there, but I don't have a hammer for you.
Okay, I'll go grab a hammer. I'll come back.
You have a rubber hammer?
I've got my dead blow, orange one. Yeah. Okay, I'll be back.
Are you videoing?
Yeah.
We didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the fact that the black mastic wasn't coming up anymore with this next section of tile. As you can see over against the wall, it had come up with the tile.
This is how we have fun.
But now it was all sticking to the floor. We wouldn't realize what a problem this would be until later when we tried to remove the black mastic. It is almost impossible to get up.
Easier than that.
With Derek's help, we really got after it and started making progress on the floor. We would chisel away and then spray it down with our water sprayer to keep the dust down. And we just slowly chipped away at it. No pun intended. I'll just remind you again how miserable this job is. It's 95 degrees outside and hotter in this kitchen. And in these suits with the respirators and the goggles on, it was just miserable. But we did it together and feel really good about the fact that we got it all up ourselves. By the end of the day, this is what we ended up with. All of the tile was gone and we were left with black mastic that thankfully has tested negative for asbestos. I did some research into how to remove black mastic, and there are a variety of options online. I did not get back out to the farm for several weeks, but Derek was out there a couple of times. He tried some different methods of getting up the black mastic, including gasoline. I sent him out with some citrus strip. He tried Goo Gone. He tried the orange hand cleaner that everyone professes online to work really well with this. And really nothing worked. He made some progress, but it was so slow, it wouldn't really make sense to do the whole floor that way. As I've been investigating methods to remove lead-based paint off the exterior of the house, many people recommend the Cobra SpeedHeater. I have been thinking about buying one of these for our projects, but have been hesitant to do so because of the steep price tag. They run between $400 and $500 new. So I was elated to find this one on Marketplace for $100. I rushed over to buy this and was excited to try it on the black mastic because many people say that a heat gun will work to remove the black mastic. There are two types of speed heaters. There's the Cobra, and then there's this one, which is the standard 1100 version, and this is more for exterior paint removal, but they both work about the same. They work at a temperature of 600 or less, so they don't vaporize lead. I got all suited up and switched my respirator out to the organic vapor cartridges because I had heard that these things will cause the tar to smoke, and I didn't want to be breathing any of that in. So I was super excited to see how this works. I plugged it in into the one power source that we have. We have an extension cord run from our power pole into the little house, and it took about 45 seconds to get hot. Once it started to really get hot, I placed it on top of the floor mastic and just checked it every 10 to 15 seconds. Eventually, it actually started smoking as it was starting to boil up the mastic. At this point, I was super excited. I thought I was going to start removing mastic right and left. I was quickly brought back to reality as, yes, the speed heater would melt the top layer of mastic and it bubbled like a tar. And that came off easy enough with the chisel. But then under that is another layer of some sort of paper fuzzy material, and I've seen other people online dealing with this fuzzy type stuff. It might be a paper that was put down under the black tar, and it doesn't go anywhere. Super disappointing. Now, I don't regret buying the speed heater because I know that we'll use this in a lot of places to remove paint from old doors and on the exterior of the property, but it did nothing for the mastic here. Plus, it's really hard to manage the 1100 because you have to put it on something where it's not going to ignite. Now, some people will put it on the next section of mastic to get that hot, but I was just weary of not having my eye on it at all times. I mean, this thing is a beast. You can see in the picture the infrared heat. It is hot. And it does boil the mastic, but it just doesn't get that nasty paper up. So I worked on it for a while, and then Derek came in to help. After about an hour, we decided to stop. The speed heater just was not making a dent in this project, and it was proving to not be a viable solution to our problem with this mastic. I was feeling pretty defeated at this point, thinking, well, we've made a huge mistake removing the tile, or we're going to have to hire somebody to remove this mastic. But when I got back to my computer, I did a little more research, and we aren't the first people to have this problem. There is a tool that will go onto a floor polisher that does a mechanical removal of mastic. So that is our next step. We are going to rent one from Home Depot, and we're going to take it out to the farm, and we are going to see if we can get this mastic up with that tool. I had had enough of being inside and decided to go take a walk with Nadia down the road. It was a super nice day out, and there was a storm coming, so we were going to have to go back to Denver before we got snowed in there. And as I was walking back, what a surprise. Derek was driving down the road in his truck that we call Old Yeller. And this was a huge milestone for him because he has been working on this truck for about 3 years to try and get it running off of its own gas tank. And I was just so surprised that he drove down the road while I was walking. So I'm excited for him that he got that running. One of his many car/automobile projects. While we were walking, the cows in the field also noticed that we were there, and they must get hand-fed by their owner because they must have thought we had food, because they were coming from all directions to walk kind of alongside us or stampede. After getting back from my walk in the cattle stampede, we had to head home. There was this big storm coming and we needed to get back for Christmas. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll follow along to see how the rest of our renovation of the little house and eventually the big house goes, and all of our other fun that we have out here on the farm.